Okay, this is Justin Gordon on How to Choose a Therapist Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1 of How to Choose a Therapist, go ahead and check that one out first. And in this video, we're going to be talking about other aspects of choosing a therapist, such as age, personality, gender, and health insurance. Okay, backing up a little bit. Client focus, religion, something you may or may not want to consider. Um, If you absolutely want a therapist who is of your religion, then go for that. If you absolutely want a therapist who is not religious, that's important to know. As therapists, we are supposed to be neutral in terms of religion, though religion can be a difficult thing to be neutral in by its very nature. So, something you'll want to consider. We're not allowed to push our religion on other people. It does happen, though, unfortunately. So, something to be aware of. If you're going through a particular religious issue, then probably a good idea to have a therapist who is of your religion as well, so they can understand the depth of that. Not absolutely necessary, but still might be important. Now, personality is a huge one. Interestingly enough, a lot of research has shown that the relationship between the client and the therapist is the most important factor. More important in a lot of ways, even than the techniques that the therapist might use. Now, that's not to say those techniques aren't important, because obviously they are, and we've talked about how a therapist needs to specialize and have specific trainings with certain issues. Just to say that even if the therapist has a lot of really good skills and everything, if you feel like you just really do not connect with this therapist, those skills might not be able to be implemented as they otherwise would. So definitely consider personality of therapist, consider the fit in that sense. You will need somebody you can sit across the room from and feel like, I get this person gets me, this person's really listening to me, we are connecting. Probably the most important factor in therapy. Also, another huge thing to look at is gender. For some people, it will matter. For some people, it won't. Again, I'm just throwing all of these things out there so you can consider them beforehand. So, some males will connect better with males. Some will connect better with females. Some females will connect better with males. Some with females, obviously. It really just depends on a lot of different factors, but definitely something to consider. If somebody has had a lot of bad experiences with men, might not want a male therapist, or somebody had really bad experiences with women, might not want a female therapist. I have had people who have come in, women who have come in wanting a male's perspective. That's something to consider as well. If you want the perspective of somebody from the opposite sex, that could be helpful as well. If you are going through things that are very unique to your own gender, then there's a good chance you'll want somebody of your own gender. Just another important thing to consider. And if you're helping your child choose a therapist, you might have to think through a lot of these things for them, because they might not think about it or wouldn't be able to articulate some of those things, particularly if they have had toxic relationships with somebody of the opposite sex, especially somebody older of the opposite sex. They probably not going to feel as comfortable with a therapist who is a form of authority figure who is of the opposite gender. All right, treatment approach. These really, you don't have to worry about as much unless you're fairly familiar with the mental health field. Most of these things aren't going to mean a lot to most people. Now, modality, this is an important one. Most or all of us see individuals. Some will see couples, some will see families. 95% of the work that I do is actually with individuals. Despite being a marriage and family therapist, most of what I see is individuals, with some couples and really no families at this point. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking because I'm an MFT, I don't work with individuals, but I very much do. Or some might make the mistake of thinking if you're not a marriage and family therapist, you can't do marriage therapy or family therapy, which is not true either. All right, finances. This is sort of the not as much fun side of therapy. So it shows our cost per session, how we can accept payment. This is an important one to remember. Most of us, or if not all of us, take HSAs or FSAs, right? So some good tax benefits there. You can use that for therapy. This is another important one, insurance. In fact, I should back up just a little bit on insurance. Another route that you can go is get on the website of your insurance provider and they will have a list of all the different providers in the area. Provider in this case meaning mental health therapists. So take a look at the website. It'll give you a list. From there, what I would do is punch a name into Psychology Today, and it will give you a lot more information than the website of your insurance company. So that could be a good place to start to narrow it down, see what your affordable options are, and then cross-reference on Psychology Today to get a lot more information. Okay. That being said, you will still want to call your insurance company or check out your benefits online, because even though a therapist is covered, you still might have a deductible that needs to be met first. Important to know, just so you don't get a nasty surprise after 3 weeks of therapy when the insurance company finally processes the first claim and you realize you have a huge bill and 2 more coming. All right, qualifications, licensure, school graduated, when graduated. This can be an important thing to look at as well. This tells you the amount of experience a particular therapist has. For some issues, you're going to want somebody who's a bit more experienced. For other issues, it might not matter. It's hard to say exactly how to take this one because some new therapists can be a lot better than older therapists, but older therapists are going to be more experienced. Might matter, might not, depends on a lot of other things. Just something for you to consider and see how much you think it matters. Okay, then additional credentials after graduation. Okay, another really important thing to remember, a lot of people wait and put it off for a long time when they know they want to start therapy. For some people, it's almost like an existential decision. Like if you call a therapist, you're giving up or you couldn't do it and they get bogged down in that. I would say very strongly, don't worry about that. It's not a huge existential decision. It's not going to change things greatly. You don't have to be 100% prepared to go into it. Just find somebody and go try it out. Also remember, going one time is very much not a commitment to go many times. If at any point during the process you want to be done, you can be done. You don't owe it to anybody to keep going. You can just say, hey, I'm good. Okay, so going one time, not a firm commitment. Don't let that hold you back. Another important thing I would really like people to remember is that when you are in therapy, you are allowed and should advocate for yourself. Meaning if things aren't going the way you want them to, but you still really want to see that therapist, tell your therapist that. We are adults, we handle our feelings usually. So let your therapist know, like, hey, I really don't want to go down this route, but I do want to keep you. Here's what would be more useful for me, or here's how I need to be handled. Here's what we should do, okay? Most of the time, we're not going to be married to one particular route and locked into it. We should take feedback, and a lot of us train to actually take feedback. I really appreciate feedback, so I'm not feeling in the dark. So if you're there and you feel like I really need something else, advocate for yourself. Tell your therapist, hey, this is not working, or this might work better. This is what I need. So you're not stepping into some cookie cutter assembly line process where you go through the exact same thing that your therapist's last client went through. It should be tailored to you, and it's going to be tailored to you much better if you advocate for yourself and say, this is what I need. Also, that being said, if you know a therapist personally, could be a good idea to say, hey, you know my personality and you know a lot of therapists in the area. Is there somebody you would recommend as a good fit? That can save you quite a bit of time. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Again, I just threw a lot of information at you and you decide which of those factors are important to you and which ones aren't. Some will be more important than others, and ultimately it will be up to you to decide what you want in a therapist. Now, if you ultimately can't decide, don't let indecision or analysis paralysis bog you down. If you're feeling too confused or overwhelmed, chances are it's better to start the process than to not start the process. If you need to simplify it a bit and just find somebody who meets a few specific criteria and then go from there.